Basically, you wasted my time and your money.
Right.
So one of the things that I try to tell people is the objective is to implement the plan. You know, one of the things that's a little different for me is that a lot of people in my industry, especially people who've had the years of experience that I have and the credentials, will not work with small clients. I will. And part of the reason is that I got in this to help you. And I think you can work with somebody who's a smaller situation as long as you're managing their expectations, right? So if you're in a small situation, yeah, I'm not gonna necessarily be able to do very complex scenarios and detailed planning or whatever because it isn't cost effective or time effective. The good news is we're independent, so we have different ways to, you know, charge for that if somebody really wants to do that. So I have some flexibility there. But the main point is that, you know, I went to a conference not too long ago and they were talking, one of the advisors on this panel was talking about this and they asked them if you had somebody who was kind of modest means and they came to you, what would you tell them? And they basically said, come back when you have some money. She said it a little nicer than that, but that was basically the idea. Sort of the same idea like banks only lend you money when you don't need it. Now, if it's me, right, and I do this sometimes now, like I get all these credit card offers in the mail after I kind of paid off some bills. Well, when I needed like Discover, I hate Discover because and they send me like a letter like every week I get a mailing from them. But when I needed a little more credit to kind of clean some stuff up, where were it, right? So my feeling is that if you weren't there for me when I needed you, and now I'm there, I'm gonna go with the person who was there to help me. So my feeling is, and you know from some of your clients that you referred, some of your smaller ones, I wanna grow with them, right? To me, that's the reward. Somebody who is wealthy, and you know, we're helping them with their taxes or estate or whatever, yeah, that's great. But somebody who's just starting out and you kind of build that legacy for them and grow with them over time, that's what this is really about. So one of the other things about what we do is everything fits together. You know, when you were talking a little bit about trading and stocks and all that, the thing about investing, and I'm going to pivot to that for a few minutes, is that there's a difference between speculating and investing, okay? So speculating where you're basically trying to make money on an individual stock and grow or whatever. Investing is really nothing more than the gas to get you from point A to point B. You can have economy, you can have high test, right? And the idea is that how comfortable you are with risk, how much time do you have, what are you trying to accomplish? Because ultimately, when you're growing wealth and saving money, you're doing it for a reason. You're not doing it so you can be Scrooge McDuck sitting on a pile of gold or something with your hat and, you know, looking down at everybody. You're doing it because you want to accomplish something, right? You want to buy a bigger home. You want to send your kids to college. You want to take more vacations. You want to be charitably inclined or have a legacy, whatever the case may be. So the idea is that when you're trying to pick an investment strategy, and I was talking about this with my students last night, it's about tying it to what you want to do, right? And it's not as complicated as people think. If you've noticed, I rarely talk about investments. I rarely talk about performance, and part of the reason for that, let's see how we're doing. It's commoditized. You can